Hey, you did my job.
I know.
Okay.
Well, it's also because now I can see it.
Oh,
because
lovely.
before it was turned
Facing
the other way.
But the reason Tim's does it the other way is he wants you to see it dancing in the screen because he's a nerd.
People are
likes
distracted by
electronics.
your feet and his ball sack. Is the
Yeah,
problem.
you're not wrong. You are not wrong.
God, I hate the way you guys. I hate that. Framing.
It wasn't my idea.
I know, and Tim knows.
It is awfully low.
It is. It's very low. I don't disagree. It's like, hey, okay, whatever.
Right.
I don't know anything about. I do a little now, but I didn't know anything about depth, framing, color, any of that crap.
So what you should start doing is progressively stuffing just more and more every single
There's
episode,
a giant zucchini in there or something,
and just
oh my
see if anybody comments.
Oh goodness.
So he comes in and be like, what do you got going on there? Like, oh, it just must be a good day today.
Is that high enough?
I stretched.
Is that high enough?
No.
Yeah. Of course it's not because he is huge. Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah, you want to almost every once in a while feel your bristles touch it. You got to keep close to it.
Yeah, that's the one thing I hope that happens after retirement. I get a real beard.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that like mandatory? You have to keep it like that, or is it just a pain in the ass with like the chin strap and whatnot on your helmet?
It just grows like shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just does not grow well.
It's my problem too. I'm in
Patchy.
the NFL, so my beard is really patchy. Right.
That does happen though. Every now and again, you'll catch like a weird hair, and all of a sudden it'll pull. And you're like, that's exactly what I needed.
There's your under.
Do you
the
not
giant
pull
cup.
with when you shoot a bow? Does it not for every time you launch an arrow? Does it not freaking yank
No.
beard hair
So
out?
if you think about it logically, right? If you start with your head in the position you're going to fire your bow in, when you pull your string into it, it's directly in and directly out, so
Sure.
it can't loop around it. Now, if you draw your bow back and you start moving your head around a bunch, then you could loop something around it.
Sure.
But as long as you keep it in straight, it comes in and it goes straight away.
But that's like a teaching thing then, because if you are doing all that, you're punishing yourself. So by the very nature of having a beard, you actually may be a better shooter.
Well, but also if you're doing that, it's taking you longer to get to your shot, right?
Sure.
So you draw the bow back, you start
Yeah.
moving your head around, no different than talking about like the nose button and the points of reference. The more you can refer into your shot quicker, the less time you're at full draw, the less oxygen deprivation you have, the quicker your shot will go off, and the more accurate you're going to be.
Sure.
Welcome to the Podium Archer podcast. We're filming here at Nashville North Archery, and we have a guest today. So I'm going to let Josh.
That is hilarious.
I'm going to let Josh introduce him. By the way, Rob is so big he's sitting on the floor.
Yeah. We gave him the shortest chair for reference. You got you're 6'8", right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got 3-ish inches on me. I haven't been measured in a while, but the last time was 6'5", and I refused to get measured ever since that
There's no
because
need to
I'm
get
sure it's
remeasured.
compression. Yeah, I'm good at that.
All right, why don't you take it away, and then I'll finish up with like the BMAC and like and subscribe and everybody's Instagram and all that stuff. But I want you to be able to do the intro, and then we're gonna have you like kind of talk about yourself for a couple of minutes, explain like who you are, where you came from,
Okay.
and then
Give me the
also how
background.
you arrived at the shop to let Josh outfit you.
So, Rob Havenstein. Is that right?
Havenstein.
Havenstein. Oh, God, it's
Havenstein, like
tricky when
You're
you're
not a big fan, are you? Huh?
Oh,
Don't like the Chargers.
Technically, I've because of where I live originally, I've really more watched the Seahawks, so he is the rival technically.
That's true.
Although it was hard not to root for the Rams after the transition and the move, especially seeing them be successful in St. Louis and then have to move to LA, which you're the last member of when they were in St. Louis.
Yeah,
Correct?
player wise, yep.
Yeah, it's awesome. Originally, you reached out to me like, a year and a half ago or whatnot, asking a couple questions about bows. I didn't actually know who it was.
Right.
Because I wouldn't even read the names. I would just run through and randomly answer questions.
I'm sure you get a ton of them.
And then when you hit back the second time, I looked at the name and went, why do I recognize that? And looked it up and was like, oh, crap. Yeah. I recognize that name. He's won a Super Bowl at school because I am actually a bit of a football fan personally.
Sure.
Pro more than college. I don't know why people are more college than pro. I don't know.
I hear a lot
I
of
hear
that.
that a lot.
Yeah.
a lot of college.
I prefer the pro game personally, which call me weird, but you were asking questions about long draw length bows, and we fortunately have every long draw length bow in Nashville and in Spokane, and you wanted to come try them out and pick one, and I hadn't done a video on it yet and offered to collab, so that was awesome. Like, yeah, sure, come on out, and you're sitting here in Nashville, flew in today, and tried a whole bunch of bows.
What bows did he try? Just
The Lift XD, the Mach 35 PSE, the large cam proven Bowtech, in the Highline Hoyt because he is a 33-inch draw length. The PSC snuck in there at 32.5 to see if it would work. But there's not a lot of bows at 33, which as imagine you run into that with a lot of different things in general, just trying to find things that fit. I have sympathy for that because I have a relatively large foot.
Yep.
And I can't just walk into a store and buy shoes for the most part.
Foot or feet?
Feet. Well,
just one foot.
Well, I technically think they're a half size different.
Okay. Yeah.
But they also typically don't make a 14.5 and a 15 either.
That's
so you run into that as well.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's so I can understand the struggle, but not quite nearly as bad as you've got it. And came to a winner. Do we talk about that now?
Well, I think so. I think that we can. I think we can let it go for a little bit. I think we can let it go because I want to go into your background a little bit, and then what brought you into archery. Like I think that's like obviously explain the football stuff. You came from Wisconsin, you made it to LA. Like I'm curious about that journey. So take a few minutes and kind of talk about that. But I am curious how you actually got started in archery, like wanting to do bow stuff.
Yeah. Well, you want me to start bow stuff or background?
No.
First?
You can start
background.
Yeah, kind of give us the background.
Yeah.
Into archery.
I was born and raised in Maryland. Pretty much all my extended family's from Michigan, so they're all big deer hunters. But we grew up in Maryland, and my dad was never a big hunter. And so fall came around, it was never something that was I never had the home pressure or like, hey, let's go out and, sit in a stand, go do this and that.
In Maryland, are you rural Maryland or like densely populated? I've never been in Maryland, so I don't know if there is a variance.
I mean, we're definitely a suburb of Frederick would probably be, the next biggest city. It's not crazy big. It's like a pretty big small town-ish. But for Maryland, Maryland's not big at all. And the only thing you really got there is Baltimore in terms of like actual big city feel.
Sure.
So we're pretty rural. I mean, in our backyard, there was deer all the time. It just never came across to me to kind of get into hunting and things like that. And then I went to the University of Wisconsin. Ton of deer hunters up there, but our games were always Saturday. And so maybe going out and having a few beers after the age of 21, of course. Having a few beers on Saturday.
I'm doing the math as a college student. Okay, all right, I'll believe you.
Hey, there was at least 2 years there where you'd be fine.
Yep.
It checks out. Do the math.
Checks out.
Did you redshirt for 3 years?
Exactly.
There you go.
Redshirt. See?
Yeah, there you go. See,
okay.
I'm surprised you know what that is.
Yep. Well, we talked about it last time. Okay, continue. Sorry.
And a couple guys were at the
That's
bar,
right.
and then all of a sudden they're in the deer stand at 4 a.m. just getting Snapchats of like, dude, I'm dying, and I'm in my cozy bed being like, I don't know how you're doing that right now. And it kind of just never really occurred to me until a couple years into my pro career, and it's just kind of got around some guys that were doing it, and kind of stories, and kind of saw the appeal of it. Like you go out and you shoot a deer, and you got venison at home, and it's like, man, this stuff's pretty good, especially with all the jerky around there, and everyone's got their own their home recipes and stuff like that. And that was one thing I got in high school, but I would just get free jerky from somebody who's shooting them. So I was like, well, I don't need to go get them myself because I'm getting jerky. And it kind of got brought on upon to me. It was that would be kind of something fun. It just randomly worked out. One time I was home for bye week, and one of my good buddies, I wanted to see him before I left, and he was like, yeah, man, love to hook up, but what are you doing tomorrow? And this was a couple years ago, and I was like, I mean, we're just hanging out at the house. And he's like, hey, it's opening season for rifle. Do you want to come out? Sure. So I came out and ended up shooting my first deer with a rifle there, and then kind of started getting into the spider web of hunting and things like that. And then he was like, oh, dude, you need to bow hunt, because he was a huge bow hunter. I was like, all right.
Can you describe the experience physically of shooting your first deer with a rifle?
Well, it happened a little too fast.
Gotcha.
It was, it was, pretty cold day in Wisconsin, and so we get up in the blind, and big tower stand. And we had coverings over, a little chair there, and we're sitting there for 30 minutes or so. And he's basically if it was brown, it was down, because I had basically a morning to go hunt.
Sure.
And I looked out there probably like 75 yards, and I was like, I think I see a deer. And he was like, shoot it. I'm like, all right.
What are you talking for?
Right.
Just blast him.
But even the best thing about that is before because I didn't have a deer rifle, and so he handed me his, and he goes, by the way, the scope may be off.
Thanks for the heads up.
I was like, what do you mean maybe off? And he was like, it just may be off. I was like, which way? And he goes, I don't know, just maybe off. I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Okay.
Confidence inspiring.
Right.
Yeah,
and
great.
Not having shot a lot, I made a less than ideal shot. It would have been fatal at some point, but we ended up having to get down, and we ended up putting 2 more into it, just to, because I really only had the morning to hunt.
Sure.
For
sure.
I didn't have 8 hours to wait or anything, and kind of just sparked the interest there, and got my first bow with that same friend. And then once I was sitting up in the stand, and my first deer came out with a bow in my hand, and legs, full body, just went crazy, just shaking the whole time. And it was just like, wow, I mean, that was a rush, an absolute rush that you just couldn't replicate. And I played professional football. I'm thinking I'm pretty cool. I played in front of huge crowds, University of Wisconsin,
Super Bowls,
right? Super Bowls. Been to big stadiums,
yeah,
places where you can't hear the guy next to you, and you're just reading his lips and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, this little deer walks out, my whole body just takes over, and I just start shaking. And I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna do a lot more of that. And so
it's hard to describe to somebody who hasn't experienced it.
It really is.
Right? It's either you know it or you don't.
Right.
And there's granted, there's things in life I obviously haven't experienced to understand what might feel that way, but nothing has ever really gotten close to that feeling.
Right.
Especially the first couple experiences you have with it.
It's crazy to me though that a guy that's reached that level of a thing that you want so bad, because like you work your entire life as a kid dreaming about winning a Super Bowl, and you're talking about like getting the shakes when the doe walks out.
Oh yeah.
That's so interesting.
Isn't that wild?
I think you're right. So we kind of brought this up a little bit earlier while we were talking about back, and we were like, stop, let's save it for the pod. Let's save it for the pod. But that everyone can have that feeling. That's the other thing that's so cool is like everyone can get that, which I don't know. I feel like that's like something special about that.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, it's remarkably special. And once again, I'm not sure there's anything else that feels like that.
Right.
It's very carnal. It's very, in your basic core of existence, because it's live or die.
Yeah.
In your
Right.
existence.
Yeah, you're
like
gonna
if
eat or not.
either I'm going to eat or I'm not. Either I'm going to kill this animal and live and eat, or I'm going to starve.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as the other people that are relying on me. And as a man, that's a normal thing in your DNA,
Sure.
right? It's not just you, it's the people that rely on you. And it taps into that. And there's not very many things in life that can tap into that.
No, especially with football and, playing in 2 Super Bowls now. I want, fortunate enough to win one in 21, where it's like, it's just such controlled chaos, controlled aggression the whole time, where you really got to have a handle on things. But it's like, you're out there and all of a sudden you see what you're after, and everything just kind of goes out the window. And what shook me is that I couldn't bring it back. Now I'm talking to myself, being like, all right, we're breathing, we're coming back into it, and I couldn't stop.
You're doing the things, and it doesn't seem to matter.
Nothing worked. Nothing worked, and I was like, wow, this is just an awesome, awesome feeling.
Wow.
It's remarkable.
That's so cool. So I have a question, like mindset wise, when you're playing football. So I've been interested in like mindset in general. So I've been going down the like people that run ultra marathons,
Sure.
people that just do incredible things. And like you're one of those people that has taken their whole life to be within a discipline to do something that is like peak performance for a human being.
Well, and be incredibly successful at it too. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Is it something that you are chasing, or is it something that is chasing you? When you're thinking about like when you're lifting weights or when you're working out or when you're practicing, like, are you chasing something, or is there a freaking demon chasing you?
Honestly, I'd say probably a little bit of both. Especially in football, there is competition. Like when you're lifting weights, even with your teammates, if someone's kind of on your level of like lifting wise, like obviously there's a lot of freaks in the NFL, and just, certain guys are better lifters than others. But like, there's still that competition that goes that, that might drive you to do a little bit extra, hit a little bit more weight, whether it's, squat, bench, whatever it happens to be. But I think it 100% has to be internally motivated, because eventually you're going to find yourself working out alone, practicing alone, working on just going over the day or your game plan alone. And it's how you think about that where if you need another stimulus to drive you, sometimes it's just not there. So you just go out and have a bad game. You know, you string enough of those together, and then you're out of a job.
Right.
And it's not like, it's not something you can take 5 years off and then hop back in. Like, that dream is now dead.
It's a very limited window.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super curious about that. Like, I hear Rogan talk about when he's running about basically he's imagining something, in essence, chasing him.
Sure.
And listening to some, again, these ultra runners that are going like a couple 100 miles in a race.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have that thing. Like, I feel like genuinely, like, I feel like mentally, like I'm a pussy. That's what I feel like. But the reason that I want to get, like, that I want to start getting that, I want to start pushing myself more with that stuff is like, I see the effects when I go hunting. I went to Wyoming last year and I felt like I just was gassed the entire time.
Sure.
And I hated the way I felt, and I felt shame. And so now I'm getting back into running, and the shame is what's pushing me.
Sure.
But I wonder, like, how long, that's the thing that I'm curious right now, is just like, how long is that shame going to be able to push me, or do I need to turn it into some sort of more like positive thing? But for now, the shame is working great.
Right. No, I mean, there definitely is a lot of, whether it's shame or not fear of failure, because it's never that, because you really do have to go put it out there on the line to even have a chance to be successful. But like knowing almost how bad it can go if you don't really prepare yourself for the moment, with like, some of these teams, some of these defenses, some of these individual players out there, they're just the best of the best athletes in the world, and it's your job to stand in front of them. And they're way better athletically than you. And it's how do you gain an edge in a place that you can, whether it's mindset, preparation, flexibility, whatever it happens to be. It's that knowing how bad it can go and how much you don't want that to happen.
Do you have individual players that you're going to go up against that you literally are thinking about when you're doing things that you're like, I need to get better because of this dude?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which in most cases is most of the league. I mean,
wow,
it's the best of the best out there. There's no
slouches on the on the D line.
No.
Maybe that's why a lot. The NFL is huge and it's massive, and it's always going to stay that way. I mean, even now the NFL is encroaching into Christmas games, which has been historically basketball only.
Right.
But it's like a lot of people care about it, and every all-star you have in college is now could just be like one of the like the last man on the rosters. Like everyone out there is an all-star. Everyone out there had a really successful college career.
Sure.
Whether it's D1, D2, D3, they were the best at their position for their school, for their conference, whatever it is. And they're here to do well and make sure, well, not to make sure, but to make you look bad so they look good, and then you're out of the job.
Well, they're all trying to take your job is the reality of it.
Oh, 100%.
If they're in your position, they're there to try to take your job.
Mm-hmm.
They may not be wishing for your worst day against their best day. They may want to beat you at your best, but they're still trying to beat you and take your job. And that's just the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an insane amount of stress.
Oh, yeah.
I'd imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And you've done
sure.
it
And
for
that's
how
gotta
long
drive you.
in the NFL?
10 years in the NFL, going on my 11th year.
Golly.
Now, traditionally in your position too, there's a, like, quarterbacks can make it longer.
Mm-hmm.
Linemen, isn't 10 years kind of like a career for the most part?
Oh, no, 10 years
10
is
years is a really
it's
long
long,
career, right?
long time.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what, 4 or 5? I know I've heard the statistic that the average NFL career is only 4 years or something like that.
3.5.
But for a good lineman, like a guy who's not just like managed to get there but isn't quite converting or being disciplined enough to stay.
Sure.
Like a good lineman, what's typically a career for a good lineman?
Man, it's hard to say. I mean, I'd say if I had to go anywhere from like 4 to 6, something like that, kind of when you start getting into that second contract
Gotcha.
type stuff, because it's, you're on your rookie deal, so you're cheap, which is good.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden you get paid and you're on your second deal and you're not so cheap. And then every single year, somebody is looking at you saying, how do I get better and cheaper at the position.
Well, for sure,
because it is a
100%.
business.
Right.
Yeah, because realistically, like, you know, if guy X is $20 million a year and you've got a rookie coming in that maybe he's not quite as good as guy X,
But kind of.
but he's way cheaper and he may get as good as guy X,
Oh, yeah.
there's an incentive
Oh, yeah.
to get rid of you.
Yeah, it's like the Moneyball stuff.
100%.
Like
Because
that's
there's
fascinating.
because there's salary caps, right? So you can only spend so much money.
Yep.
So every time they pay a guy more than the average because he's good, that comes away from someone else or some other option.
100%.
Right? So it's very tricky. I don't like the fact that there's a salary cap personally. I think it's kind of messed up. I get the purpose.
Sure.
So teams that have smaller markets, make less revenue, can compete, and it's more fair.
Well, I mean, it's like you'd create the New York Yankees of football, right?
I don't think that's a bad thing.
You don't?
No, I do not.
You don't?
I do not. Well, you make that as the example, and you look at baseball as an example of there is no salary cap. Do the Yankees win every year? No.
I thought they did a thing in the what? Listen, when we're talking about sports, I'm the guy. I'm the guy. Just so you
But
know.
no, I mean, I think it's proven that yes, like a team like the Giants is typically or the A's is typically going to struggle because they just don't spend money.
Sure.
Right? If you're not going to put money into it, no different than not to
Anything
make
else
offense,
in
no
life.
different than the Bengals would probably never go anywhere.
Sure.
Because if they had the choice and anybody could spend whatever they want, they struggle to spend money. Their market's smaller, and that's typically what they do. Even in the salary cap area, they're notorious for it. So I'd like to see it at some point without one.
Sure.
To where the guys that they could pay you what you're worth and not have to look for a cheaper version of you or, you know, pay an aging running back, but that's still really good, a good amount of money when they always try to discard them because they know they're going to go bad.
Sure.
Right. And not have paying that guy a good salary for what he's doing cost you in the end in that risk.
Sure.
It'd be nice to see that, I personally think, but they'll never do it.
No.
No.
No. Not a chance.
Fascinating.
It is an interesting thing when you start putting, you know, math into it
Right.
and saying you only have X to work with.
Right. When you,
That's very tricky.
especially when you put the, you know, the actual business side of the NFL, because it does make a lot of decisions.
It does.
The good thing is the NFL's a non-profit, which I really like that. That's great.
Very true.
It's so funny. By the way, if you didn't know that, it genuinely is a non-profit. I don't know how that works.
That's interesting.
Hey, if you're still here, like and subscribe. We are going to talk about archery now. We're going to shift over. Follow me on Instagram at @BrandonMcDonald_archery. Do you have social media or anything like that you care about people following you on?
Instagram. I could tell you what my handle is.
You
I
can't.
think it's Rob Havenstein something.
I can look it up.
Josh is
I
going to
got
look it
my
up.
thing.
Follow Josh at Podium Archer. Follow Josh's YouTube channel at Podium Archer. Come buy things from this shop online using my discount code BMAC. That's discount code BMAC for 10% off your purchases at podiumarcher.com. I joke because I push the discount code because we're going to use basically the like profits from that. And Josh and I are going to go on some like unbelievably epic hunt. And that's what I wanted to talk about next was
Rob Havenstein 79.
Perfect. There it is.
Clarification.
because that's your number, right?
Yep.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay. Havenstein?
Havenstein. Did I do that right again?
I-
said it
yeah.
wrong. Jesus.
Havenstein?
Havenstein. Havenstein. But
The
not
Germans.
But not. Yeah. That's right.
It's phonetic though.
Havenstein.
If you spell it out,
Why do I
Havenstein
say
gets you
ha?
there.
I don't know why- I
Havenstein
don't know
gets
why
you
I do
there.
that.
Well, it's like I said, you're not a big fan.
I hated English in general and languages. I struggled with them.
a good thing it's
Science,
German, though.
math, geography, and that stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nailed it.
Terrible with languages.
Oh, man.
I was bad at math.
Yeah. I was
Super
great
bad
at
at
math.
math, which is funny because I'm very interested in the physics of archery.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of that, let's pivot over. So I want to talk about the bow at
Yep.
this point.
Sure.
So you're going to release videos on your channel that are basically this dude who's a super long draw picking his favorite long draw bow.
Correct.
And you go through the actual, like, you weigh the bows, you do the speed test, you do the feel, like the whole thing. So people should go watch that, especially if you're a long draw. Like, what do you consider a long draw? 30 and a half plus?
I wouldn't know. I would say if you got to be over 31 at least to be considered long draw length.
31.
And the main reason for that is most of the bows that exist, if they're like a 29 axle to axle to a 33 axle to axle, somewhere in there, something that fits a 31 inch draw length person exists in general. It's when you get beyond that, the manufacturers have to make a completely different bow. Like they don't just usually repurpose something else. They make something completely different to try to fit a human being above 31 inches, which is not super common in general. So the cost availability of that isn't usually feasible. So they'll typically make a bow and run it for a long time,
Right.
which this is a really good year if you have a long draw length to buy a new bow because multiple brands made a new long draw length bow this year, which normally doesn't happen. normally you'll be like, oh yeah, this one that Hoyt came out with 3 years ago, and here's one that Bowtech came out with 4 years ago. Here's one that Darton came out with 5 years ago, and they don't change it. No different than women's bows. It's a good example. They don't change those very fast either, because it's a smaller market. They sell less of them, and when you engineer and design something, you've got to get a certain number of bows out of it to justify the engineering. And so, like I said, this year there's multiple different new choices. So it's a great year to actually pick one if you're a long draw length guy.
You're also lucky you're not a lefty, because imagine being like a 33-inch draw that's a lefty. Yeah, probably even less.
I think we probably still would have had 2 or 3 pick from. And if I had enough time ahead, I'd just order another one. So you could compare it. Yeah, well, I mean, it's part of doing business, in my opinion. Like, you have to be able to provide those things for people to make a good decision, because at the end of the day, I want people to be able to feel like they've exhausted their efforts to pick the right bow for them. So if that means I got to buy something and bring it in that's probably not going to get sold, so be it. I'll do it. I don't care. No different than if you're a left-handed 70-pound, 25-inch female, I'll probably still bring in the bows for you to try it.
That's pretty bad.
Because I want you to be able to. And, and you never know. Somebody might actually come in and buy that bow. And if we end up having to discount it to get rid of it, then we have to discount it to get rid of it. But a right-handed long draw length male, that's not uncommon. I mean, it's not like there's not like 10 of them coming in every day, but we had a guy today. Yeah, we had 2 today that were the same size relatively. He was pulling less weight than you, but same draw lengths to where you can adjust them and try them. So it's relevant and worthwhile. Left-handed, not so much, but I'd still do it. It wouldn't matter. I'd still do it.
Okay. So,
but I do poor financial decisions to do a better job at what we do.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do. So, all right, let's go through the bows again. There were 4 different bows. The PSE was discounted immediately.
Yep.
Because it doesn't go to 33.
Exactly.
It was 32 and a half.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it's not awesome.
We talked about it ahead of time, right? Yep. And like, hey, we'll see if it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
And it was the Mach 35-inch axle to axle?
Mach 35.
Okay, 32 and a half.
Yeah.
So gone immediately.
Yep.
Now, so that meant the Bowtech, the Hoyt, and the Mathews were left.
Yes. That was a Lift X30 or Lift XD proven long draw and Hoyt Highline, because they don't make any of the RX9 Ultras or the AX32s long draw length configurations. Still don't get close to that.
Right.
Like, I think they stop at like 31 and a half.
Yeah, I want to say they got an inch shorter this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they shortened the limbs an inch, and that's why everything got an inch shorter this year.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like like an RX8 to an RX9.
Yeah,
the limbs are just an inch shorter and a different cam, but that's where the shortness came from.
Okay,
just simply shortening the limbs.
Interesting. So here's what I want to know: when you were factoring, because those other 3 bows, like, pretty comparable.
Yep.
So what were the biggest factors for you as you're trying to figure out what bow is going to be yours? Because I'm always curious about this question with anybody that's picking a bow.
Yep.
Like, give me the rundown.
So I think it was the totality of kind of everything. Certain things did, certain bows did certain things better. When he just kind of looked at it from a whole package perspective, that's kind of where we ended up. Like, if you're a Hoyt guy and you have a long draw length and you just like the way Hoyts feel, the Highline's going to be for you. For me, it was a little stiff on the draw cycle, and then kind of had a little bit of a hump getting into the valley. It just didn't feel super comfortable, or at least as comfortable as the rest of them, the Mathews and the Bowtech. The Bowtech was a great bow. Even switching into performance, it was kind of getting hyped up that this thing's going to feel like...
I was shitting on it. I was shitting on it because every Bowtech, but that's the difference is it a different cam on the... Okay, so it's a different cam, so different module.
The Proven has a short cam and a big cam, and then like the Virtue that you were shooting is a completely different cam altogether. So all 3 of them have different cams, and I can say because I've shot the Proven with the shorter cam more than I've shot the longer cam, it's not bad. I mean, it's got a little bit of a hump in the back end of it, but it's not like shooting a Virtue or the Core SR.
When you drew it in performance, I was watching to see if there was that hesitation before the wall. Nothing. Like, you just drew it straight into it. And I was like, oh, well, he's obviously an NFL guy. Like, this he's just going straight through it. But then you were like, no, I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So that means, to me, if somebody is shooting a Bowtech and they got a longer draw, like, that's definitely one that needs to be on the table. And you probably ought to try performance and then go speed test between the 2.
Yeah, which that was very interesting. And I think we were all kind of surprised on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was...
That was one of the bigger tests.
Yeah. Yeah. The Mathews was 12 feet. Was it 12?
12.
12 feet a second faster. Mind you, these are all set exactly the same. Same draw length, same weight, Bowtech and performance, everything we can do to incentivize each bow to perform as well as possible. And it was 12 feet faster.
Yep.
And we all agreed significantly quieter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was wild.
And lighter.
And lighter.
And
Lighter.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So we kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit.
That's fine. I don't
It
care.
just ended up basically because you'd shot a Hoyt before.
Yep. Shot a Hoyt, shot a Mathews.
Yep.
First time with the Bowtech, and then first time with the PSE.
PSE. Yep. So you end up picking the Mathews.
Yep.
So this was another thing that was interesting is as we were getting everything dialed in, paper tuning, and I say we, meaning I was behind the camera and you guys were doing work. I like to take, I like to take
Rob,
credit for
don't
stuff.
take away from yourself. Rob built his bow.
That's right.
There were a couple things that I tweaked and helped
He'd
him with,
step in
but
a little bit.
Rob built it himself.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
He was foolish enough to say, "Oh yeah, I've worked on my own bow. Sweet, you're building
Josh
this."
was like, awesome. I will stand here and
I will
watch
stand
you.
here and watch, criticize, and make fun of.
Perfect.
So the paper tear I found interesting because you were using the stock engage grip.
Yep.
And then you went out and we grabbed the box full of other grips that Mathews has come out with. And your paper tune actually cleared up without having to make like a ton of changes.
Yep.
You actually were able to find a grip that actually improved your consistency.
Well, and the irony of that too is that they make 3 different grips for that bow. The one that comes on at stock, which is probably the least consistent grip. I think we'd all agree with that because it's real rounded.
Yep.
Both of the other 2 both shot really clean for you,
Yep.
but the stock one didn't. And that's largely because your hand will roll all over the freaking thing.
Sure.
And you shot, the last 2 shots you shot with the stock grip looked different through paper. There was probably a 1/4 inch tear difference.
1/4 inch tear
right?
difference.
Which is, if you can't put your hand on the grip the same way, that's what's going to happen.
Right.
And then either of the other 2 that you tried, which you shot multiple times through each, you had clean tears every time you fired it.
Yep.
I just don't know why they don't put one of those grips on their bow to begin
They
with.
They may change it.
They should.
They've had the engage
If they
grip
did
for
that, then they wouldn't be able to sell other grips. I mean, just saying.
Ultraview right now is calling them, being like, "Please don't change the grip. Please don't
Yeah,
change
come
it."
on. We sell so many of these things.
Now
This is
you
going
didn't
to suck.
choose an Ultraview grip either. You chose a Mathews grip, one of the other ones.
I'm gonna write Ultraview with a Sharpie on it.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I actually have a stamp. We can heat it up and
Yeah.
burn it into the side.
Love it.
Yep. I still love you, Ultraview. Yeah. So, but that was a big deal. The fact that, like, I think you'll be shooting much more consistently without more effort. Like, you're not going to have to work through figuring out the grip. Like, it's just the grip fit you,
Yep.
and it was much more forgiving.
And I think the biggest thing is it gave me feedback.
Okay.
Like, especially, I went with what, taper?
I'm trying to remember if it was
I
contour
don't
or the
remember if it was the
taper.
contour or
I
the
think it was
taper.
the taper. I think it was.
Taper. Yeah, it
Might be
had
the
that little-
contour. One of the 2.
Little fat part in the middle.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can feel exactly where that is, especially in a big meaty hand. It's like you have an actual reference point. Same thing with bringing your nose to the string of like, is my grip good? Yes. All right, good. Check it off the box. Forget about it. Go to something else like your actual shot cycle, and you're not fiddling around with other things. I mean, as it is in football, there's technique to everything.
100%.
So I've wondered about this.
Fundamentals.
Right.
Why don't, so like Bomar's nose button, very pokey,
Yes.
like overly pokey.
overly.
But why don't they do something on the grip? It's a little more aggressive on one portion so that you could actually feel like, and we talked about this, him pushing and pulling into the hold.
Yes.
Why is there not some sort of something on the grip that's like, that's exactly where it hits my hand every single time because there's a single point of contact over whatever, like a little node off to the side or something like that, that as you're pushing into it, it's creating the same amount of pressure. And mentally, you're doing the same thing you're doing with the nose button. Because
Yep.
if you pull that nose button into your nose, you go, that's more than normal.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like,
Why?
yeah.
Because 9 out of 10 people don't get helped. And you would think it felt like shit.
Mm.
Hey, I finally swore. 34 minutes in.
I
finally
know
swore.
we need a much smaller swear jar. I'm very proud of you.
No, that's why. Like the reality of it is any things that typically make you shoot better don't feel good if you don't know what you're doing.
Sure.
Like you're not getting helped or getting explained to. That's why grips feel the way they feel. That's why they're rounded and contoured. It's why Mathews stock grip feels great if you don't know what a grip's supposed to feel like because there's no edges on it. So you stick your hand on and go, God, that just feels so good in my hand. But anybody who actually understands how to shoot knows that you have to be able to stick your hand on it the same way every time.
Sure.
And if you can't feel an edge anywhere, you don't know how you're sticking your hand on it. No different than the nose button. The nose button hurts.
Right.
The average person would be like, ow, that hurts. I don't like it. No, ow means you can feel it. It's no different than hitting that pressure point right back here that makes you like tingle a little bit. Well, I know where my hand is. Yes, I know it doesn't feel good, but I know exactly where my hand is when I draw my bow back. They all correlate. It's just understanding the importance of that. The average person never really gets the opportunity because the average shop either doesn't know any better or doesn't take the time to teach them those things.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And obviously you took a lot of time today with Rob, but I feel like that's kind of what happens with most people. They come in and like, hey, you want to try a couple of different bows? Here's what we do. And you run them through it. Like, we filmed it, so it took longer, but
but in all reality, I didn't really take much longer with him than I would normally would.
That's what I was going to
test fire bows. We book out at least 3 hours for that normally. Like if an average person says, I want to come in and try bows, buy a bow and build a bow. We book out 3 hours. Now we don't normally let the person build their own bow, but he had some experience with it. And I was like, well, why don't you do it? And I'll help you if you need any help along the way. And it really didn't take longer to do that. Maybe another 15 minutes max. So, but typically trying out a bow and building a bow is usually about a 3 hour task. And you got here at, was it 2?
Yeah, something like that.
2-ish.
Yeah.
And we were sitting back here by 6,
Yeah.
6:15.
Yeah.
And we were,
and like the bow's done,
and the bow's done.
fully
We probably put
built
30
out.
arrows through it in the back, just making sure it was right. Had to
Dialed to
move,
20.
had to move the course adjustments a bunch on the site. So I took it out of the bow and rebuild a bunch of stuff, put it back together. So that took 5-10 minutes extra. But yeah, it was still realistically, if you take the filming portions out of it, it was a 3 hour thing.
Yeah. Not that
Maybe
bad.
4 max.
All right. So
realistically.
what site did you end up picking?
Spot Hogg Boonie.
Spot Hogg Boonie. All right. Why did you do that? Because I wasn't involved in that portion of it, because otherwise I would have said you need to pick the Ultra.
I feel like there was some tone in that, the way you said that, to be honest. You're like, why did you do that? Like a little brat.
That's not how I feel. Why did you pick the Boonie?
That is how you sounded,
I think it's
100%.
just fine. If you want to put a big chunky transformer piece of shit on the front of your bow, I'm just kidding. I like. God. Thank you. All right. Why'd you pick the Boonie?
Well, I had ran the triple stack on my Hoyt a couple years ago, and I just really liked the sight picture. I like the fact that you can adjust all three, so you actually get the gap you want. It just, to me, it just didn't make sense having a vertical pin that's like one's at 20, one's at 33, the other one's at 42 and a half.
Thank you for saying that.
Right. It just, that didn't make sense to me. It's like, it's just much easier, at least in my brain, to be like, all right, I know I got a 30, I know I got a 40. Deer's at 37, that like makes it, I don't have to think about, just put it in the middle and then shade it a little bit.
Well, let me jump in there on that. I don't know for the life of me why only one site's built that way.
Is it patented?
It's gotta be patented.
It uses no. So Trophy Ridge originally had vertical adjustable individual pins, and the patent lapsed, and that's when that site came out. And at the same time, the Black Gold Dual Track came out with a movable second pin. Both of those would have violated Trophy Ridge's patent.
Okay.
Since then, nobody else has made it.
Dude.
I don't, like CBE's
like
middle pin doesn't move.
or something?
I don't think so. I think they don't realize how good of an idea it really is.
It's a fantastic idea.
It's awesome. Like the only reason I don't use it is because it's a little too big and bulky, and the housing's too big. I like a much smaller housing to aim with, and I'd rather give up a pin and have a smaller housing.
Sure.
But I love the sight otherwise. It's a great product.
The proof is what I'm shooting right now. So on the title, and I dialed into 20, and my second pin's at 35,
right,
and my third pin's at 50.
Yeah, and that's a huge gap.
And it's just like, what is this?
Right.
Like, what is this going to do for me? I mean, it's fine. Obviously, I can go out to distance, but like, yeah.
If I have a horrible encounter, I might use this stuff. But outside of that, when are you going to use that?
Right.
Literally, and yeah. I'm with you on the fact that you can actually move the individual. I do like a vertical stake, but
there's a lot of vertical multiple pin stakes. A lot. Why isn't there more that move all 3 pins or have 3 pins and move? I don't get it.
You would think. I mean, you would think they would at least try or want to.
Yeah,
it seems like a great idea.
It's the most intelligent hunting product for archery. Period.
Right.
It really is. They just don't all make it.
And then if Spot Hogg happens to come out with a smaller housing treble stack,
Little
then,
lighter.
you know, pop
Do
it
you
off.
thi-
pop
I mean,
it
is
off,
that
you
a
got new
thing?
one.
You can say pretty please. They might do it.
Please, pretty please. That'd be great too. But you know, you pop it off. You go there, and then you still have the same attachment. The wheel was nice. The locking was nice. Everything else like functions really well. And having the Spot Hogg, everyone says they're built to last. They're bomb proof. So
They are.
if you are going to take it hunting, which I would. That's the goal of this, is to go take it hunting. If a stick happens to get in there, or I drop it, or something happens, I can trust it, and that's always been.
They've
something I thought was nice.
never made a product, to my knowledge, that would compromise durability.
Right.
Period. Like, they don't make things that fail. You go look back in their entire history, they just never made products that failed. Comment down below if I missed one that failed a lot.
Well,
but like looking at realistically,
comment
they
down
just don't.
below if you've actually had a Spot Hogg that had issues at all. Because to be honest, and you've had a shop for a very long time, I've never had anybody DM me about a Spot Hogg ever.
They don't, because they don't fail, because they understand how to make things that hold up. Now, they didn't have a first axis adjustment forever. Thank you for changing that. But outside of that, and the heads are big and bulky. But that's it. Like, if they redesign the head on that, they've already got a first axis. They've got a great interchangeable attachment system to fit on any kind of a bow, and they all do it relatively well. Is it still a little on the heavy side? Yeah, it's not the heaviest site, though. There's heavier choices for sure. And most of that weight's in the head.
One, right?
Yeah.
CBE is the only one that's probably heavier
it's
than
kinda
the
like
other.
a
No. HHA's heavier for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking HHA.
Yeah,
not
CBE is not heavy.
No.
It just
I was
doesn't-
thinking HHA.
There's just a lot of little
I didn't
parts
eat
on
dinner,
those.
so I'm very drunk already on one Brickworks boozy bitch
Well, and I only
beer.
got you one just to be safe.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Keep you real dead.
Drive home at some
There's
point.
some nuts behind you if you're dying.
Thank you.
You can put some of my nuts in your mouth, Brandon.
Oh damn.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that's an offer you make me every time I see you, actually.
No, it is not. You wish.
If you're still here, like and subscribe. Okay, so I feel like this site, like the picking the bow and picking the site, those are probably the two like primary staples.
Traditionally, those are the ones that people mull over the most.
Yeah.
Well, and it's because there's more options, right? You look at rests.
Most options.
Yeah, you look at rests, and there's just not that many.
Yeah.
It's usually like you got one of three that you're like milling between. You can have up to like 8 or 9 different sites you might be picking between if you're looking for a movable sight with multiple pins on a first, second, third adjustment chassis. There's like a lot of choices.
And the other thing with your shop, and that you have them all.
Yeah.
If you're just looking online and you're looking at them, it's really hard to tell what's good, what's bad. Does this actually move smooth, or are you looking at a video where somebody's cranked on it 1,000 times, or actually runs smooth now, or there's just having it in your hands and being able to touch it and feel it, and then go outside and look and actually see the pins.
Yeah, we did 5 different sites, took outside and was pointing them at stuff and looking at the comparisons between them and moving them and feeling how they move.
Because the Boonie is not the one I thought I was going to get.
Okay, what did you think you were going to get?
I thought it was going to be between the dialed and the driver.
Okay.
Yeah, but he wanted a particular type of sight picture, and nobody makes that.
Yeah.
And overall durability as well.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, I think that's like you seem like a no nonsense kind of guy. So like a Boonie to me kind of makes sense. Like it's a no nonsense type
Durable.
of site.
He's dedefinitely not
little-
a princess,
yeah.
like some people
a
sitting
little
across
heavy
from
up
me.
top.
a little unrefined.
There it is. That's perfect.
All right. So let's transition over.
Well, we're going to Maui to go shoot axis deer.
Are you really?
Well, trying to. It's we have our mini camp in Maui.
Oh,
For like a
okay.
PR relations
I've
thing.
got to intro that a little
Okay,
bit better
okay.
because I need a clean
And
transition.
FYI, his bow's in here if you want to bring it in and talk about any other parts of it. We brought it with us.
Okay.
So if you want to, it's up to you. You're more the aesthetics person. I can let you.
I just
decide.
don't. I mean, I don't honestly don't think it matters that much.
It's a Spot Hogg, isn't it?
Yes, it is. He's just such a fucking princess.
All right, go slap
How
it on
does
if you
this
want.
not have the Mathews Ultra View sight on it?
No, how do they not shave down some of their parts to make the thing fucking lighter and
They
not
will.
so quite gross?
They will. It's a transition. Just like, why is the second and third axis in the same thing on an Ultra View, and why is it so blocky? And da-da-da-da-da-da.
And then they just started doing it. Except Spot Hogg's been around for 20 fucking years.
Dude, they just added a first access like 2 years ago.
Right.
Be grateful.
Just because they're very slow to develop doesn't mean I can't continue to rag them.
That wasn't a slow to develop. That was an argument with the industry that this is stupid. You don't need it. If you built bows right, you wouldn't need it. Was always the argument I got.
But that's dumb. That's a dumb argument to have.
I was the one making the other argument most of the time. So
all right. Listen,
that's a dumb argument.
I want to transition off of this, and I want to talk about. So here's what I want to talk about. Do you have any upcoming hunts, and then like dream hunts that you have? And I'm also curious, like, is it some guys will just hunt with a bow, like they're just like, that's all. I made up with a bow, like Cam Haines, just a bow. I'm not one of those guys. I would go gun hunt.
Yep.
Would you gun hunt?
I would gun hunt under certain circumstances. I would probably never buy a hunt that's just gun.
Okay.
I would buy a hunt that I can bow hunt.
Sure.
And if it doesn't work out and there's 2 days left, you want to pick up a rifle and shoot him, then go right ahead.
Okay.
I would still do that. I'm not above killing an animal with a rifle. I shoot elk in Idaho secondarily with a rifle like every other year. Like if I don't harvest an elk with my tag and archery, I'm allowed to go back for like 5 days with a gun. And I go back every year and try to kill one with a gun. I killed one with a rifle this year.
You know why? Because elk are delicious.
They are.
And I
very
would rather
tasty.
have an elk in the freezer than be like, I did it with my bow or I didn't do it at all. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
For
So dream hunts that you want to do with a bow, like any of that kind of stuff. Like what do you think? What's in the future for Rob Havenstein?
Perfect.
Thanks.
We're gonna sneak off when we go. So we're doing our NFL mini camp in Maui, and we were fortunate enough to have a buddy who worked for the Rams who's got family back in Maui, and then we kind of asked if we could kind of sneak off for a couple hours and then maybe go try our luck at some axis deer. So I mean, it's a hunt going to be all of 5-6 hours basically till it gets dark, but we're still going to go out there and give her hell.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Right. No, we're going to be down there anyways. And it's definitely an awesome thing that the Rams are doing, kind of, grow the game and everything like that. But
I don't care about any of that. I care about hunting.
But we figured we might as well, go ahead and, give her the old college try and kind of see what we have. And we've gotten a lot of people saying, good luck. I hope you bring a gun type stuff. But, but in terms of the gun hunting, like, yes, I'm not 100% just bow. Probably for whitetail I would be, especially just being in a stand. But I'm definitely not against gun hunting, especially kind of big, dangerous game or maybe like kind of new places, because I am a little bit new, and not a little bit. I am definitely new, kind of the hunting world, where it's like if you're the only real teacher is kind of experience. So I'd rather have that experience first. If I'm going to go have maybe a better, more successful time, then
Sure.
I'd 100% bring a gun. But in terms of like dream hunts, one of the biggest things I want to do first is go elk hunting. That's just, I mean,
you haven't done an elk with a bow at all.
It's all during the season.
Yeah, it's the wrong time of year.
I don't know.
Right.
Again,
I don't know.
I thought football was May, June, July, August. I don't know. No, it's not. Okay. All right. Well, I thought maybe they'd leave
Two
the
of
fall
those,
zone.
And there's a reason a lot of times I don't catch any games in September.
Right.
And they start like at the beginning of September.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So pretty much all of hunting season we're playing. And so that's definitely, one of the bucket list I want to go do, because, there's a million videos that come out and you can kind of watch, and, you get this big, nasty looking elk just bugling from 100 yards across, and you're like, man, that's got to be pretty cool.
Oh,
but
that's
especially
really
with
cool.
how like actually seeing one up close, like, man, that's a big animal.
It is.
That's a real big animal. But I think another one for a true dream hunt would be, I don't know where, but moose. Moose would be unreal, because those things are massive.
Giant animal.
Massive.
Yeah.
And that would just be to stand under that thing with me being as big as I am and just feel dwarfed.
Yeah.
And then try to go take this ethically with a bow.
Mm-hmm.
Would be a lot of practice, a lot of time put in, and kind of that same pursuit we were talking about earlier about, am I doing this animal justice? Am I doing everything I can right to go have a successful outcome?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Can I make some recommendations that's going to piss some people off on the internet?
But of course you can.
All right. Do not mess around at your age with your resources.
Okay.
Do not mess around on public land. Like, Go book some private land hunts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not joking. If you want an elk, like, go book some private land stuff.
Okay.
Or go into some fantastic areas and pay for a landowner tag if you don't draw.
Mm-hmm.
And go with an outfitter that knows what that knows the area, that knows what they're doing. You will have a tremendously better experience.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I understand. I know that's going to piss some people off.
He's not wrong.
No.
I mean, there's in your life, you either have money or time. You rarely have both.
Sure.
Right. And the older you get, the less time you have, typically the more money you have in general. Right. If you have the resource and you still have the ability, right? Because eventually none of us will have the ability.
Right.
If it's a goal and a desire that you have, don't be cheap.
Yeah.
Honestly, I had a completely different mindset 10 years ago.
Sure.
I really did. Like, I was like, you all cheat.
10
you guys
years
suck.
ago, you were in your mid-30s, though.
Yes,
It's
I
a-
know.
it's a little
but
bit
I
old
wish
for some
I wish I had I wish I had this mindset then, because I'm older and it's more difficult and my
Sure.
time is less available.
Yeah.
Like, I'm consuming so much of it in other things. I wish I would have come to this earlier, because I vowed I'd never go on a guided hunt.
Yeah.
Ever. It's like, that's just for rich people and there's no skill involved. You still have to get it done, and it ain't easy. You're paying for a better opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to be successful, and
Right.
everything is still required to be successful. None of it's a gimme. So he's very right.
Right.
If you're going to do that, and that's a passion and a goal of yours, don't skimp. And you can get into public land hunts. You may hunt 9 days for elk and not see an elk.
Yeah.
That's
Like, Brandon drew a good tag and didn't hardly see an elk in an area, right? And meanwhile,
I used an outfitter.
Yes.
And we went
Yes.
7.5 miles in on mules at 4,000 feet of elevation change. We were in a place where no one else except the sheep hunters were,
Yeah.
and the grizzly bears. And like,
Probably why there's no elk.
No, they
That's the
matriculate
crazy-
together.
that was the craziest part. As I was like, why would the elk be here? And they were like, well, that's why the grizzlies are here, because the elk are here.
oh, yeah.
And I was like, well,
They're
where are the elk this year, dicks?
Yeah.
Is Dick a dollar?
Well,
Should I throw $1 in
nah,
for Dick?
don't count.
Okay,
His name
all right,
That's
okay.
anatomy.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
could have been
yeah.
his name.
Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, but
That's right.
but like, you can buy a relatively good landowner tag in New Mexico, and you're gonna see elk every day. You're gonna have opportunities frequently, even if you don't go guided. I think you have to go partially guided, partially not on those,
Okay.
if I remember right. But
In New Mexico, because I bought a landowner tag, and you had to do it with an outfitter. Now, I don't know if that's everywhere.
I think there's a certain number of days you have to be with an outfitter, and then after that, you don't.
Maybe
have to
you're
be.
right. But I think regardless,
sure.
so like, imagine this scenario. A bull is walking in, and you've never had that experience before.
Mm-hmm.
And you draw your bow, and you hold on the bull, and you imagine where you're going to shoot it. And it's a 5x5. So you don't want to shoot that bull. You
Sure.
want to wait. But you wait for the scenario where you go, that's where I want that shot to be. Right there. That's where I would do it. And you're thinking through that mental process. You're getting shot opportunities that on public land,
Sure.
if you go, whatever, DIY, backcountry, I'm going to go hiking 15 miles and I'm going to do that stuff by myself. Like, in my opinion, you have to be perfect
Yes,
in order to pull that stuff off, because of the lack of opportunity,
correct.
Sure.
because of the infrequency that you'll see animals. You have to know where they're going to be. You have to know what the wind is going to do. You have to know what the weather's going to do. You have to be able to stalk in on them. You have to be able to. There's so many things that have to line up perfectly for you to go do it on that one bull that you see.
Sure.
Versus going and doing something where there's a land of more opportunity, where you can have somebody help you and say, "Hey, here's what you're going to do."
Sure.
So that's
Makes a ton of sense.
The general rule for myself and anybody else that I ever talk to about it, if you're hunting public land and you have a easy to acquire or over the counter tag, you shoot the first elk you see that's legal.
Right.
And you're going to get one opportunity probably, and you are likely to not get more than one. That's not the case with all this other stuff.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you want to be successful, and you can shit on us all you want for saying that, but that's the reality of it. People like what Cam Haynes is doing, they're paying for a better opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to be successful and they want to harvest a more mature animal and they want to get the opportunity to be in that environment. And unfortunately, that environment costs money for the most part. You can draw it, but it's really hard to draw. You'll spend a quarter of your life trying to draw those things. or you can, if you have access to the money, you can pay for a little better opportunity. And it's not cheap. And I'm not trying to say that it's, really affordable. The average guy probably can't, but it's not as bad as one might think, but it is just going to get more expensive. It's gotten so much more expensive from when I first started really paying attention to it over 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. You could pay like a quarter 10, 15 years ago for what you pay for now.
5 years ago, I paid half of what a landowner tag costs now
5 years
in
ago.
New Mexico. 5 years.
It's and that's thank you, Joe Rogan and Cam Higgins for making that so popular, because now that crap's so much more money.
And maybe it's also the fact that the federal government has printed trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, so they're worth less now. They buy less stuff, even landowner tags.
That's part of it, but it's the popularity's gone up. They're booked out farther.
Sure.
Right. Their price is a supply and demand thing.
Sure.
The more they're behind, the more they raise their price to try to slow down the demand. That's economics.
Yeah. So another way that, in my opinion, you should think about planning your hunts. I'm just going to keep giving it to you. So think about your physical capacity over time, and what you perceive your physical capacity.
Tell me this too?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember having this conversation with you.
Because you
pick the hard crap now, because 10 years from now you're not going to be able to do it.
Sure.
Physically, it's going to be too much for you.
Okay.
So
like if you want to do something that is like spot and stock elk 11,000 feet, or like that's a different thing than even moose. Yeah. Like moose, they call them in. You're not walking 1,400 miles trying to go. I mean, you are maybe walking some flatland and go get moose or caribou, whatever. But like there are certain hunts that are so physically demanding if you're going to go do them. Sheep, goat, that kind of stuff. Like if you're going to go do those, and you have to assess your own physical capability of like, how does my body feel right now at this age? Because like for me, I'm 43.
Sure.
And I'm literally like, oh shit, I probably missed my window for some of these. Like I don't know that I mentally have the muscle to train hard enough, and then physically would be able to get to the point where I could go do some sort of living above 10,000 feet for 3 weeks straight to go get a mountain goat and get up every day and exist in cold and rain and gross. And I'm like, I want a hot tub.
And stay motivated.
Right. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a hot tub.
Nothing wrong at all. Nothing
Good
wrong
stuff,
at all.
man.
So I think that like your idea of moose, that sounds awesome. Elk sounds awesome. Have you ever thought about black bear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Josh and I just did black bear, like you separately.
Separately.
But I'm obsessed with them.
Yeah, because black bear is spring, so
you can do spring
you can
or
totally
fall,
do that one, right?
But spring, yeah.
And it's still very reasonable.
Right.
Like you can go to Canada for a very reasonable amount of money and shoot a bit, or have an opportunity to shoot a big black bear. I feel like that's
just starting to kind of blow up, and like a lot of people have come out saying like, hey, black bear is one of my favorite.
Yeah, 3 years from now it's going to suck, so get on it.
Like
it's just going to get so much worse again.
True. I don't know, man. I'm obsessed. And like I've been a whitetail guy for a long time because we're in Tennessee. I'm actually from Colorado, so I moved from Colorado out to Tennessee when I was to go to college, and then just stayed because I like it. But like, there is something about being in the stand with black bears running around underneath you that's so freaking cool. Oh, yeah. Watching them interact, the whole thing. I'm still on a black bear high because like we just
Well, maybe you need to hunt more than one next year.
Maybe
we need to go do that.
Maybe. So I've got all the meat in my freezer now. So I'm going to start like cooking, and I'm going to, that's what I'm curious about is I've had some black bear that I was like, meh, but I feel like this is the cleanest bear I've ever had. And I'm going to really take my time to like do it upright. Like every meal, it's not going to just be like, I'm going to substitute, black bear for whatever the thing is. Like, I'm going to make sure that the meat is like, I want to prep this. I want to make sure that this is the thing.
Sure.
I've got black bear
do it the best
ribs.
justice that you can.
Exactly.
That I'm intrigued. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were any of your bears like super wormy? I'm just interested.
No.
Okay.
I know. So like that's what I hear a lot is like you get them open
I shot a bear once that was full of worms.
Really?
Yeah.
And it was the grossest looking thing you'd ever seen. Like every part of it was like going like an alien.
Like you start taking the skin off and it's literally in the muscles?
Open and there's freaking worms eververywhere. All over it. Yeah, I was a teenager. I was hunting with my dad.
Was that fall or spring? Do you remember?
That might have been fall, but I don't remember. We're talking a long time ago. And it's the only time I've ever seen it. And I've shot bears my entire life. I started hunting. I shot my first bear when I was 9 years old.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I've probably killed 20, 30 bears in my life. Once have I seen one with worms.
Okay.
Once. So it's not as common as you think. The possibility of trigonosis is real. right? That
Gotta
can
get the hell
happen.
out of it.
But if it's as long as you're preparing the meat correctly and it's well cooked, you're going to be fine.
But that's like crock pots, the smoker, like that kind of stuff. Like that's the type of stuff that I like to eat anyway. So that's how I want to kind of prep it.
Yeah.
But the ribs, so like on a black bear, the ribs, I killed probably I don't know, multi-100-pound bear. The ribs are like this thick.
Right.
Don't sell
They're
yourself
tiny.
short.
Maybe it was a 400. Maybe it was a 450. Maybe it was a 500.
You're just making it up.
Let's call him a 600.
We'll go
pounder.
350.
But there's so much meat in between the ribs.
Sure.
There is.
I'm stoked about that. And and when we got up to him, he didn't smell like anything. Like there was no like wet dog or like any of the things that you typically hear about people. Like just shit. Like they just didn't like just smell like ass.
A lot of that's what they're eating, though, in the environment that they're in.
Yeah.
Like
and,
I mean, you'll frequently find bears that are eating out of dumpsters and things like that. They smell like terrible.
Yeah.
and that's why I'm curious about your wormy one. Like, was he just eating on a carcass for a few weeks and then just gets loaded up with worms?
I don't know. It's possible. You know, it's a likelihood. You know, that does happen. But once again, we're talking 30 years ago. I think that was something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I have never seen it since.
Okay.
And it's rare that I don't. I mean, I've probably shot more bears than I'm counting. It's almost every year of my life I've killed a bear.
Sure.
And there were years I've killed 2.
The other cool thing about that, like if you go Canada, is typically you're doing some fishing as well.
Right.
Because bear hunting is usually in the evening. And then so you're doing some fishing in the morning. And like it's a pretty relaxed way of doing it. Whereas if you decide that you're going to go backcountry elk, you got to be up in the morning.
Yep.
You're taking a nap in the middle of the day and then up for the evening. Like it's a kick your ass type of hunt.
Sure.
You'll lose a bit of yourself every day.
Okay.
You really will. It's hard.
Okay.
That type of hunting is really hard.
I'm concerned about your mental health and strength. I just don't know if you have it. That's the main thing. Is I'm worried.
It wears on you, and you don't ever really recover from day to day.
Sure.
So it's just a little harder and a little harder each day, especially if you're living in a tent in the middle of nowhere, that kind of thing. You don't ever really, if it gets wet, you don't ever really get dry again. You don't sleep as good, and every day seems a little bit harder. Like most of the guys that I know that are like psycho elk hunters that I've known over the years, they'll lose a shit ton of weight in September, like a lot, like 20, 30 pounds.
Oh, no kidding.
No
Even
different.
little Dan.
No different. Yeah, Dan looks like he's
has,
on the edge of death.
And dude, he has not a lot of weight to
No, he
lose.
does not.
Like that guy.
I've tried to encourage him to put on excess weight beforehand. So
That would
there's
be
something
hilarious.
to lose.
2 months of pizza. Just pizza training.
Keep working out like a psycho, but put on some calories, dog. Like, yeah, and it's not like he's not eating. It's just the drive, how hard he goes, which I personally, I think that sometimes that's to his detriment a little bit. Like, I think he pushes a little too hard. Sometimes you need to wait for the situation to be right. Sometimes you need to give it a minute and evaluate a little longer.
How many elk did he kill last year?
4?
Yeah, it's not working very good for him.
No, sometimes
he doesn't know his program.
Sometimes. No, don't
but
be like
I'm
that.
messing around. That's what I'm saying. Is
Like,
he knows his program.
If it was my life for someone to kill an elk, or if they don't, I'm going to die, he's probably way high up on the list of, I'll take him. I'll take him.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be successful because he's not going to quit, because you don't fail unless you quit trying.
Yeah, but like that's
Or
what
you-
I'm curious about with you is when you decide to get in the woods and go on a hunt, is it like, are you the guy when there's a whitetail hunt that 2 days in you haven't killed a whitetail? Or you're like, all right, I'm up at 4 and I'm sitting in the stand all day long and I'm not coming out until like after dark. Like I'm sitting all day immediately. Like what's the amount of I must do this, I must win.
That's a good question.
And can you choose where to apply that type of power? Because like I'm sure, again, the mental strength inside of a guy who's been in the NFL for 10 years has to be immense. So can you apply that to a different thing in your life? Like, could you literally be like, yeah, I'm going to go sit in Iowa and I'm going to sit in a saddle for 16 hours every day?
Maybe not at my weight now.
That's another interesting question, actually.
Yeah.
Like, would you, if you, whatever, in the distant future, whenever you decide to retire, will you drop weight?
Yeah, that's gonna be the main goal.
Like, how much would you drop out?
Honestly, I don't know, because I was bigger before what I am now. Like if my first weigh-in in college at Wisconsin was 380 pounds.
380?
I was gonna say, what's like post football Rob's weight?
Hopefully not 380. 380. I was probably 400 at one
Holy
point. But,
shit,
but
you do
no,
not look that big at all.
But I never saw it, so it never happened. So I was never 400. Actually, I take that back. No, I was 380, and I thought I was 330, but the scale I was using before I went to Wisconsin was just off. And so literally when I stood up on the scale in Wisconsin, I like turned around because I thought somebody had their foot on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, it's just me up here.
Holy crap.
And I was like,
That's like two adult humans.
Yeah, it was not good.
Well, you say it was not good, but like, did it serve its function for what you were trying to do with yourself at that point in time?
No.
Okay,
No,
so you
no, I was
needed
Taco
to be
Bell at
lighter to
McDonald's.
perform.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why you don't see very many 380-pound. Well, you don't see any 380-pound tackles in the NFL. It's just there's too much weight. It's too much wear and tear in your body. I mean, I think that one of the heaviest guys is Jordan Mailata, and he's just an absolute freak of a human being. And like, if you look at him, you'd be like, dude, you could be like for someone who didn't know how big he was or like size, you'd be like, dude, you look like you're 275.
Yeah.
But he's just a dense human being.
Yeah.
I don't actually know how much he weighs, but I know he's up there.
So for you in the NFL, what do you feel like is the sweet spot for you? Like maximum, because you need size obviously to do what you need to do out there. But if you have too much size, it's a detriment. So what do you feel like is like good for you?
Yeah, so I mean, everyone's got a weight range that you need to hit every week. So with the Rams, we're 10 pounds. So I got to be between like 327 to 317.
Dictated by them?
Yeah.
Even if you say, I feel better lighter?
There can be a conversation had to maybe lower it, but I feel good at that weight right now, especially with, my age and kind of where it is. That's where I felt comfortable over the last couple of years. But still, even coming from college, like I've always been coming down. So I'm always basically not trying to go back up. And I got it dialed in to the point now where, I can maintain and actually like build strength. I'm not just 100% on a diet the whole time where it's going to be really hard to actually put on strength. But for a while there, it was don't eat Stairmaster all the time and sauna before weigh-ins.
What the hell were you eating to get up to fucking 400 pounds,
380,
dude?
380, big
380,
difference,
dude. Hey, come on, be nice.
380. Never saw 400, never happened. Taco Bell, McDonald's, pretty much whatever I wanted. There was just
And just colossal amounts of it.
Yeah.
Because you're still you're still doing so much physical activity. I cannot fathom that.
Yeah, believe me, I couldn't either. I didn't think I was 380. And then all of a sudden, you kind of realize, and, as I look back on it now, especially high school pictures, I'm like, oh, holy shit. Like, how do you not look in the mirror and see that?
Wait, you were 380 in high school?
Oh, yeah. So when I left high school, basically, I was 380 pounds.
And you were 6'8" when you left?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's funny to hear you talk about people that are like, you're like, that guy's a freak. By the way, you're a freak. Like,
not compared to some of these guys.
No, it's just
athletically.
It's just it's unbelievable. Like, again, when you match the mental power with the physical power, because there's lots of guys that have the mental, like Dan.
Yeah.
Sure.
Elk-shaped Dan has more mental grit than almost anybody that I've met.
Sure.
But he doesn't have the physical size to match to do what you're going to do. So you have the physical body to be able to do these things. Unreal. All right, so post NFL, what do you feel like is a good weight that you would want to drop down to like achieve the other things that you want to achieve in life, which is longevity and hunting, whatever the other goals that you have in life? What does that look like?
I don't have an exact number because the last time I was 275, I was a freshman in high school. So I don't know what that number looks like.
You were 275 as a freshman in high school?
Yeah, I was 6'5", 275.
Jesus.
Yeah. And
yeah.
So
I was 6'5" as a freshman, but how do you get to 275? Oh my goodness!
It was a good 275, and then it all just went to hell from there. But
wow! What a specimen.
For sure, I know.
My goodness.
I know the first number needs to start with a 2, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Okay.
I want to do it basically as smartly as I can, but as fast as possible. I've been 300 pounds for a lot of my life. When I'm done and I don't need the weight anymore, I want it off, and that'll be probably my number one driving thing when post retirement. You
guys, right? Like y'all have endless resources as far as like nutritionists, and you're doing blood tests that are telling you all those types of things about yourself. I assume. Will you keep doing that same kind of thing? Like, will you come up with a program?
Oh yeah, and you can use pretty much any drugs you want now.
In the NFL, you can't?
No, post-retirement.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, pretty much just go to the banned substance list and be like, I want that.
Yeah, but is that, like, what would that benefit you, though?
There's a lot of good stuff, especially with the kind of now I'm not going to get too much into this because that's just an area where I need to look more into.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys who have retired have like, big into the peptides and stuff like
Okay.
that, where it's like, it can actually really help you out.
Yeah.
A lot of guys do hop on a little bit of testosterone.
Okay.
Whether it's not because we're doing such a physical activity for such a long time,
Mm-hmm.
most of the guys are low, so it kind of brings you back up into a normal spot. I don't know where mine is right now.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, 3 kids.
Are you done with kids?
I would like to be.
Okay. that feels like
is your wife going to listen
Right,
to this?
that
And is
feels
she
like
aware
it's
of this?
No, she was 100% on board, and then all of a sudden, there's a couple new babies around the Rams office.
Oh no!
No.
They get that freaking bug.
Yeah, get a little bit of a bug, but our 2-year-old Cora, she's been an absolute terror lately, so I'm hoping that's kind
There you go.
of chilling it off a little
There you
bit.
go.
But yeah, I got 3 beautiful daughters.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Dude. That's awesome. Okay. All right. So just thinking about like testosterone, because I've got a bunch of friends that are on it as well, but they waited till they were done having kids
Sure.
to be like, all right, now I'm gonna
Yeah, I can see
now I'm
that.
gonna get on this.
Yep.
All right. But the goal would be you're going to reduce down to, again, achieve the other things that you have then set a new goal in your life. Because, like, your number one goal for probably since you've been conscious is I want to be an NFL football player.
So I was a little later. So I didn't start playing football till my 9th grade year. I was always playing basketball and then a little bit of it was baseball to start. Then I went to lacrosse because baseball got boring for me.
Did you play lacrosse all through high school?
No, I stopped. I want to say after my 2nd or 3rd year.
Okay.
or my
I played
sophomore
when I was
year.
in high school as
Oh,
well.
it's a
So
great
that's what I was
sport.
curious. Yeah.
Awesome sport. Love the sport.
Yeah.
And then I started picking up football, and then just obviously I had the size, and so I got a lot of looks. And then what helped me out was we had a really good recruit who was a running back, fullback, linebacker, guy by the name of Zach Zwinak, and he was a stud. So he got a ton of colleges in there, and they were like, "Hey, coach, do you got anyone else?" He was like, "No, I got the 6'8" guy. You want to look at him?"
You want to look at this giant freak?
So it's kind of kind of gave
we
him a
can make
wave.
him into something.
Right, exactly. Just big marble statue of Taco Bell and McDonald's. He's like, I can sculpt that into something. Now, granted, I didn't get as totally V'd out as I would, but we definitely got down in weight. So I definitely got a lot of help from Zach.
That's
awesome.
I'm gonna clip that and put that at the beginning of the podcast. By the way, the marble slab built of McDonald's and Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah. It does wonders. You want to put weight on, you eat a lot of McDonald's and Taco Bell.
Very,
that's the
very
crazy-
calorie enriched food.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy part about just in general. There's a bunch of people that are not doing all the athletic things that you were doing that are
Right.
eating like.
McDonald's and
I know.
Taco Bell.
Yeah.
I find myself to be slightly guilty of that at times.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy.
It's quick. It's easy. It tastes
Tastes good.
It tastes good.
They get you.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
But you were talking about that shame. The shame has to be more powerful than how good it tastes
Yeah.
after you finish it, to be like, I don't want that feeling.
There's a line that I have repeated from a movie multiple times that always makes me snicker a little bit, and it's no matter what, nothing tastes as good as looking good.
There
Nothing
you go.
tastes as good as looking good.
Yep, there you go.
I don't know that. I think that's not obvious. I think that like if you look at America, that's clearly not the case. This is the fascinating thing about our culture in general.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this stuff is bad for you.
Right.
Everyone.
And they still go eat it
And-
all the time.
I
There's a
went
Taco
this
Bell right
week
over there.
And I
Right.
ate a damn McDonald's. Like they have these new chicken tender things, and I was like, "Well, they're new. They have to be healthy. They're new. Come on,
It's chicken. It's
chicken.
good for
It's
you.
chicken. I
Yeah,
tried it.
it's
Did I
fried in
also
seed
eat
oil.
the giant thing of fries? Yeah, I did. But like, that's the crazy thing is, the next day on my run, I literally was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like
Right.
you cannot. This
I
is
feel
so
terrible. Yep.
immensely counterproductive.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't align with what you want.
Exactly. And so allowing the shame monster
Yep.
to chase me on down the trail was actually a good thing, because I kind of was like, all right, what do I need to do now?
Right.
Like we need to not do that. So what's the next improvement upon that? Like I'm not looking for perfection.
Right.
So like I watched Cam Hanes' son, Truett.
Truett.
Have you ever watched any of his videos?
So he's
Gee, what a-
Dude,
animal.
an absolute
animal. In
freak.
jeans.
Right.
It's so
Give me a
it's so
break,
funny.
dude.
That sponsorship that he's got from those jeans must be crazy.
Oh, it's hilarious.
They're like, no, run your marathon in our jeans. And he's
Right.
like, I need $2 million this year to do
Right.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Run in the jeans.
Okay,
done.
I'm running the jeans. Yeah. But I watched like what he eats and I was like, okay, I'm not there yet. Like that's a little too much for me.
Right.
But I don't know what that is. Why is that? Like, just eat what he eats. Just eat what he eats. Quit being a bitch.
It's because we don't associate. We don't remove the enjoyment of food from our association of its fuel.
Right.
We just don't. Like our brains are still wrapped around. It must taste incredible, right? And what in life like tastes incredible? It's good for you for the most part.
Yeah.
Things that are like overwhelmingly like, oh, this is so good,
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good steak.
Right. Good stuff.
Elk meat tastes awesome.
It's expensive though. That's
very
the other
expensive.
thing is like to get that type of experience to me, like you are probably spending some good money, like a fantastic ribeye that's done right.
Or an elk steak with a private land.
Yeah.
See?
Takes money.
That's exactly right.
takes a lot of
That's
money.
exactly right.
But that's really the difference, I think, is that we
Yeah.
don't disassociate
Yeah.
the health of it with the enjoyment of it. The what's the mouth orgasm or whatnot from your food, right? It's just like, oh, this is just so incredible. Like ice cream.
Right.
Ice cream tastes great.
Yep.
It's terrible,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I don't know. I know that I'm kind of hijacking the pod a little bit to talk about this stuff, but it's just the thing that I'm kind of recently become a little bit more fascinated with. Because again, I've never had the shame demon chasing me down like I have the last few weeks,
Sure.
Yeah.
and I find that revelation to be kind of like I'm literally going to go home and I'm going to run tonight.
Tonight
Yeah,
It's raining pretty good.
in the dark.
yeah. Because I
In the
did
rain.
the other night because I didn't during the day. And like I didn't yesterday because I wanted a break, but I did that intentionally. And now I'm like, okay, I know it's raining, but like I need to go do at least 2 miles.
Sure.
And I'll feel good when I go to bed because I'll know that I like actually did the thing that I said to myself that I promised myself I was going to do. And like, it's a different thing. And so it's interesting to sit next to somebody who's like, yeah, this is my operating system.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not my operating system.
Right.
And to compare my broken OS compared to one that's so refined.
Right.
Yeah.
The discipline.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
The discipline, the growing of the brain muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, do you have any archery things that you want to talk about with?
We did talk about
with my
archery.
man? No, I'm just saying, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanna go into?
No, I think we covered it pretty well. We'll get a permanent sight tape on it tomorrow.
Yep.
And make sure your long distance stuff looks good. Probably go over some form things if I can see anything that you're doing wrong. But thus far, I'd
Definitely
like.
gonna be some things wrong.
Oh well, no, surprisingly not. Like your form's really good. Everything looks right. I don't think I'm going to have much to pick apart.
You gonna
But
shorten his
watching
arrows
me
up?
shoot, yes, we're gonna pull his inserts out and cut them down because they're definitely longer than they need to be, for sure. But weight wise, everything I think it's pretty sweet. And I like what was the final speed we got before? We're still gonna tweak it a little bit, but we were 292 with a 500 and what?
517.
With a 517 grain arrow at 70 pounds. And that right there is why people want a long draw length.
Right.
Like hands down. Like everyone's like, just give me a longer draw length. It's like, but I have an appreciation for that because the longer your draw length is, the harder it is for you to be steady because you're amplifying everything away from your body.
Sure.
So there's a level of skill required within that as you gain that velocity.
Sure.
So
But-
you'll gain velocity because you're going to shorten your arrow. So like you'll go
yes.
down to 510, so you'll gain a little bit of speed.
Yeah.
But what's the overall the benefit of cutting the arrow, and how far in front of the actual blade of the riser do you want it to be?
I try
typically?
to leave close to a ½ inch in front of the blade of the launcher.
Okay.
Because no matter what, like from where the actual cut is, not your insert, right? Because no matter what, if you pull into the wall really hard, if your stuff stretches a lot over time, it's not going to exceed like a ½ inch difference. So no matter what broadhead you put on the front of your arrow, which mind you, your insert's out there, but even if it wasn't, your blade can't touch the launcher.
Okay.
As long as your blade can't touch the launcher or your insert doesn't end up on the launcher, it will not change your impact. So that's kind of the parameter I go off of. And your arrow length is 1 inch to 1.5 inches in front of that. So we'll get a hard measurement on it tomorrow, pull all your inserts out, cut them down, reinsert them, get another velocity, and then build a sight tape for it and check it outside because we can shoot 60 outside.
But what's the benefit of cutting them shorter compared to
You are making the
leaving-
arrows stiffer. It'll recover faster. It'll have higher forward to center percentage. The physical arrow will be lighter, so you'll increase your velocity.
Will that change a paper tune?
No,
Okay.
not that little bit of change.
Okay.
Yeah, a stiffer arrow will almost always tune exactly the same. We'll triple check it.
Sure.
And once you've got 30, 40 arrows in the bow now, we'll always still check it anyway.
Yeah.
You can have a bearing shift in that settling period anyhow, but it's also a super easy bow to change that on.
Right. No, that was another one of the positives.
Yeah, for a guy who wants to be able to do things himself, it's hard to not go with one of those platforms that offers you that user-friendly home use stuff.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're all going to get better if we can work on our own bows.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, because you just understand it more.
You
Like you
understand
understand why this is doing a certain thing. And then when you're in the field and something messes up, you also understand, like, okay, here's how I can fix this.
Much higher likelihood of being successful in that scenario.
Sure.
If you understand it a little bit.
Yeah.
And you do grasp it well.
Well, thank you.
Like there was no confusion. There's no, I'm not sure.
Sure.
Like you do it. You just need to do it more.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to say?
No, I'm great. It's
Absolutely.
been fun. Appreciate it.
No, it's been awesome, dude. It's been great. Follow us on all podcast platforms, Podium Archer Podcast. Again, use discount code BMAC at podiumarcher.com for 10% off your purchases. That's discount code BMAC for 10% off everything in existence.
No, it's not. Stop saying that. I'm going to get messages going, hey, it doesn't work.
Hey, it doesn't work. I'm trying to buy a Mathews Lift long draw, and it's not working. Left-handed.
It's not shipping to my house.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
The number of people are, please ship me this bow. I
Right.
can't.
Yeah,
I'm not allowed to.
Physically can't.
He does it anyway, Mathews.
Stop
Wink,
it.
wink.
Jesus Christ.
Follow me at Brandon McDonald _archery on Instagram. Follow Josh at Podium Archer on Instagram. Follow my man, Mr. Havenstein.
Rob
At
Havenstein.
Rob Havenstein
79.
Rob Havenstein 79. Very enjoyable. I enjoyed the
A lot
pod,
of
guys.
fun.
Thanks
No,
for doing
having
it.
me.
Yeah,
So
it was
now
a
we're
good
going to
time.
go out and we're going to eat Taco Bell.
Heck yeah, absolutely.
See ya.
Feel a little light.